How you doing?
I'm Ryan.
I'm Jake.
And this is a podcast about books.
It is. And
This is Functionally Illiterate.
There was some lovely music playing at the start. I like
Who
the
made
intro
that
music.
Who did that?
A very, very talented. I did. I wrote it. I wrote that song.
You
I
wrote
did
it?
I did
that?
a different version of
Wow.
it. I know. Thank you. I would take a bow, but I would probably just make a bunch of noise and it would be a really awkward, weird silence. So
Damn.
I'm not going to do that. But you can check out my music on Spotify. You can follow me on Instagram at Jake Weller Official. I have new music that should be coming out relatively soon. If I pull my fucking finger out and actually get it done, it will be coming out.
Oh my God.
Anyway, this is Functionally Literate. We are functional and literate, or something to that effect.
We can read, and
That's
we can
questionable.
talk about books that we read, and we're going to talk about it with you.
Oh, yeah.
This is the final episode discussing 14 by Peter Kleins. We're going to be discussing chapters 77 through 81 today.
Oh,
If
yeah.
this is your first episode, weird choice. Go back.
Yeah. I mean, we'll give you a minute here to go and, to go back and have a listen.
We'll
You just
take
leave.
a moment. You should
Yeah.
pause now. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah,
Great. I'm
cool.
glad that
That's
you
good.
I'm glad that you listened to everything before continuing.
Yeah, me too. Welcome back. Yeah, let's do this. I'm sure you have a lot of interest in what the finale of this book is going to be, or absolutely none, which I... Who knows?
Selling it here. Really selling it here, man.
I'm so sorry.
Chapter 77. How the control room was reset and how the tenants of Kavacha realized the machine was damaged. So, this chapter starts with Veek just going on about how much she's in pain because she was shot in the gut by one of the beanbags.
Yeah, I
And
felt like...
So,
This to me, I felt like they were trying to... I don't know. They were trying to insinuate that she was going to die. Do you feel like that was the case? I felt like that was the case.
no, that is not at all what I got.
Because, like, my thought on it was, like, the idea that there was a level of hope that you might forget that the shotgun was full of beanbags. And I don't know, the vibe that I got on first listen, on second listen, because I went through everything twice, just for, like,
Right.
note-taking and stuff, even though I don't take notes, for mental note-taking. But it was... The first listen, I felt like it was trying to suggest very heavily that Veek was in grave peril from this gunshot wound. You know? That was just my vibe. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I wasn't reading the right signals. I didn't get it as much in the second read through, but I remember it sticking out to me.
For me, I mean, I guess it was a little bit of a fake out because then, they look and they realize, oh, you were shot with a beanbag.
Yeah,
and so like this
literally,
bit
yeah.
I didn't like because both Nate and Zila minimized her injury because she was shot with a beanbag. I don't know. I didn't like that at
Neither
all.
did I. I actually hated that bit.
Like, I mean, she got shot in the fucking stomach with a fucking beanbag. Like, that could probably give you a hernia.
That will give you internal bleeding, potentially. Like, there's so
Yeah.
many fucking problems with that. But they're like, just chill out. It's a fucking beanbag. And she has to, like, then defend that she's, like, injured.
It fucking hurts. And she's like, help me up. And Zila's like, oh, you big baby. And it's like, nah, fuck you, Zila.
Literally, I was like, what the fuck? I was so confused. Especially Nate.
Yeah, Nate was like giving her this patronizing kiss on the forehead, and it's like, fuck off, both of you. You suck.
Literally, leave him. literally break up with him right there and then. Like, I'm not joking. I'm not joking. If I got shot by a beanbag and the person who is supposed to be in love with me is like kissing me on the forehead and being patronizing and being like, oh, well, it's not, lethal. You're going to be fine. I've just been fucking shot with a bean. I am breaking up with that person. I'm like, that is a red flag. You're a red flag.
If I was shot with a beanbag, I would want to go have a little lie down. Like,
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm out of commission.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Also, Veek's quite small. Isn't she described as quite small as well?
I don't remember, but I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, at no point do they emphasize like her curves or her hips or anything like that. So that does lead me to believe that she's like a smaller woman. Yeah.
Yeah. He very awkwardly in earlier chapters suggested that she looks like a teenager, which I felt was very creepy.
Yeah. Zila kind of brings Nate up to speed on how they are resetting this control panel. And then, at that point, Veek is like, what if the sequence matters? And then Nate's like, if that sequence does matter, we're all dead.
Yeah, that's fit.
And then I think at that point, like, correct me if I'm wrong, Veek is like, I love you, or something like that. And it's like, why?
Yeah,
He just fucking minimized your injury.
I know, it's fucking men writing women in it.
Yeah, fucking men writing women. Anyways, the POV shifts to Roger, who's like still on the ground floor, like keeping an eye on the front door. Debbie was with him, and then like one of the mutants was like staring him down with like hatred and started like ripping the security door open, and then like they're all like starting to like actually rip it open, and then Roger like calls out that like they're getting in. And so then the POV quickly shifts back to Zila and Veek and Nate, and they're like resetting the control panel as fast as they could, and they hear Roger shouting. And then, so Zila had like multiple sheets dedicated to like specific sections of the control panel, and they were down to their final sheet. And she was like, what's gonna happen if we bring all these mutants back home with us?
Yeah.
And Veek makes like a dumb joke at that point. Like, I didn't even bother writing it down because it was just so dumb. And then Nate's like, I think the same thing will happen to them that happens to the cockroaches. Like, if they get too far away from the building, they'll probably just die.
I'm like, the cockroaches must be from whatever this dimension is. The fuck? Like, the implications of that are so problematic. Because it means stuff can get through. Even when the machine's on, things can get through.
Just the cockroaches.
Yeah, but that's fucking... Is that not a big problem? It's like stuff from the other dimension can make it through, which means that at any point, however the cockroaches are getting through, could be discovered by another fucking creature that could also then use the same route as the cockroaches to get through.
I didn't think about it like that, but you're right. That's terrifying.
That is fucking terrifying. That is so scary. Also, right, more weird shit that absolutely aggravated me. I feel like I'm just ripping this book apart at this point.
That's fine.
I feel
Go
like
ahead.
at this point, it's like there's so many things that have aggravated me. But
go ahead.
So the man who then decided to fucking shoot Veek, right? They've come up. He's gone, right? They're minimizing her injuries, right?
Yeah.
And nobody is paying any fucking attention to the fact that there is someone who can walk around and kill fucking everyone.
Yeah.
They just ignore...
They don't know where he is.
And they don't care. They're not thinking about it. They don't know.
They're just thinking about getting back home.
Literally. And it is... I mean, I understand the thinking about getting back home thing. That makes sense. I guess you can deal with him when you get back home. But what if he opens a fucking door and lets all the creatures in, and before you get back home, you die?
Well, Roger is on the ground floor.
He
looking at the front entrance, and he can see the back entrance from the front.
I know, but also like the strength that this
Of Andrew?
yeah. The strength that freak has is Roger's not going to. I mean, actually, if anybody can go toe to toe, because I did the fucking calculations on the door as well. Did we talk about that yet?
No, we did not. We did not talk about that. So I think it's kind of relevant now. Now that you mention it, let's talk about your research. Let's say into the door, apartment 14. So after we recorded the whole discussion to do with apartment 14. And how Roger was able to shut that door.
Mm-hmm.
In that episode, you talked about, like, I mean, how did he fucking get that door closed? Like, I don't see how he could have gotten that door closed. And then you researched it afterwards. I find your research questionable, but go ahead.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm okay with my research being questionable because I do not at all claim to be... a mathematician or a scientist to such a degree that I do understand how ChatGPT works, right? And I usually, whenever I listen to podcasts, I cringe whenever anybody on a podcast says the words ChatGPT. But so when a language model, any language model, is doing maths, it uses. It doesn't do calculations. It uses context clues based on all of the data information that it has. So it goes, if there's a whole bunch of similar calculations from all of its database and data banks of memories, it goes, the answer will be roughly this based on all of the information I've got of similar equations, because that's how it predicts language and how it puts sentences together. It does the same things with maths. So if you ask ChatGPT to do maths, it gets close, but the more complicated the maths gets, it's like never going to be exact, and it gets further and further deviated from the truth the more complicated and the more equations, and the more you take an answer that's already incorrect and pump it back into the system to be recalculated in a different equation. It gets worse and worse and worse until you end up with something that could potentially be not very accurate at all, right? That being said, I asked ChatGPT to do all of the fucking maths.
And you copy-pasted that to me.
Yes.
There was so many calculations.
Yes.
So much math. That, I remember you told me the first bit, and I fact-checked you, and the first bit was wrong by a little bit.
What was the first bit?
So you said to me that air would be traveling at 747.2 miles per hour. I asked ChatGPT for the formulas. I said, I'm already questioning your maths because GPT has been known to make shit up.
Yeah, which is why I gave the preamble, of how it actually calculates things.
And so I Googled it, and Google said it was 767.2 miles per hour in dry air, slightly faster in moist air.
Okay, so we should probably give context to what you Googled there. So what you Googled there was the speed of sound. So
yes.
at 20 degrees Celsius. And temperature does affect the speed of sound. So, because ChatGPT said the second that door opens, it would be sucked out from the building at such speed that it would break the sound barrier. And it's a couple of miles an hour off. It's like 20, 30 miles an hour off. So it wouldn't break the sound barrier, potentially. It could, depending on temperatures and things. But yeah, it's very fucking fast wind, basically. And so here's how I kind of did the atmospheric pressure. I set the stage, right, for the calculation by asking it to do a calculation based off how they calculate depressurization of space craft to the atmosphere in space, which is no atmosphere. And then I put in the atmospheric pressure of air that we breathe at sea level, and then the vacuum of space air pressure is 0, and then it's the area of the door, which would be what would control the choke flow of the evacuating air, and then it's then the speed at which that would be moving. So yeah, very, very spicy. And
what were your findings, Jake? Let's cut to the chase.
Basically, it says that the air would be moving at 343 meters per second the second that door opens. All right. I then asked it to calculate how much pressure would be required, how much strength would be required in pounds of force to then close the door afterwards. And it is roughly, very loosely, 35,280 foot-pounds of force to close that door.
And Roger was able to close it. So in conclusion, the only man capable of fighting Andrew is Roger.
Yeah, literally. And so fucking stupid. Anyway.
I still question a lot of your findings there, but you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to take some screenshots of the discussion that we had, and I'm gonna include it in the link dump.
Yeah.
Anyone who does have a fucking clue about this kind of math, and knows anything about like fluid dynamics and pressure differentials and all that shit, and you'd like to weigh in on this, I would love for you to leave a little comment. Like, if you're listening on Spotify, leave a comment. If you're listening on YouTube, leave a comment. If you're listening any other way, please email me. I would love to know how accurate this is.
Yeah, and I was very tempted to also try and work out how fast through that little door going at that speed the atmosphere of the whole planet would empty.
That it would be a question for XKCD.
For what?
So, you should check out this comic. It is an amazing web comic, where like it's a very kind of brainy science kind of humor.
Okay.
But like the author, and I think it's just like xkcd.com. I'll include a link in the link dump. But like the guy who makes that comic also will take like a random ass like hypothetical questions. Like, he's got a whole YouTube channel dedicated to it, like where people will ask him like, for instance, if everyone in the world disappeared, how long would it take before all the power in the world stopped like functioning? Or like, if a portal to space opened up at the bottom of the ocean and just started draining away the ocean, what would happen? Like crazy shit like that. This kind of question would be right up that guy's wheelhouse.
Yeah, maybe we should send this question over. Just be like, look, I read this book.
I read this fucking crazy book.
And
what would happen if a door to space opened? Could we shut that door? And if not, how long would it take before all of the air in the atmosphere drained away?
I personally feel like it would take a while. I feel like it would take maybe a couple of days, because it's a very tiny
days.
fucking hole. It's a very tiny hole.
If we're operating under the assumption, though, that, like, this air is leaving the atmosphere at the speed of sound, everybody in that apartment would have died immediately.
Oh, yeah,
There's no way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
Everyone's fucking
no
dead.
way.
Mrs. Knight is not alone floating through the universe. Like, she has company. Yeah.
So, anyways, let's loop back to the current chapter.
Yeah.
So they heard Nate and Veek and Zila are trying to fucking fix the control panel, and then they hear the sound of wood chopping downstairs. And so, like, they focused on the control panel, and, like, they finished resetting the machine, and they heard it whir and click and then die. And they were like, what the fuck happened? What's wrong? And Nate looked around, and he realized that a bank of glass tubes had been hit by the kitchen table. 5 of the glass tubes were broken.
Yeah.
So I missed something. When did that happen?
That happened. Do you remember last episode when we were talking about the air and the speed at which the air came in when Cthulhu was what was it? Fucking Cthulhu was flying overhead. I had a joke for this. Cthulhu Prime,
Cthulhu
the big
the
one.
Swales.
Yeah.
Cthulhu Prime,
Yeah.
Alpha Cthulhu.
Yeah, the real OG Cthulhu. So when he was flying overhead, he like blew in the windows and everything went flying, and that table went flying too.
That's when it happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is why I was
Okay.
like, if there was so much air that it could pick up that kitchen table and throw that table across the room, unless I'm misremembering, and it was Andrew that threw that table across the room when he came in.
See, that's what I'm wondering. Like, did Andrew do it, or was it the force of all that wind?
Or was it a
being picked up
tentacle?
by Cthulhu?
And if you know the answer, if you've been reading along and you know the answer, drop it in the comments.
We'd love to hear that.
Yeah, I'd love to have that answered. To be honest,
But anyways, yeah,
I think that's the
how the
only
chapter
mystery. I think that's the only mystery left in this book at this point.
No, the cockroaches.
That's fair. That is fair. Yeah, no, you have a point. The cockroaches.
Chapter 78. How Andrew confronted Nate and Veek while they searched for parts to fix the machine.
So Zila felt defeated. She was like, no, 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 no. And Nate's like, there must be a way. And then Veek's like, the storeroom!
Yeah. So in the storeroom, they head down, and here's something I don't get as well. And this is another fucking problem I have. They have Oscar's keys.
They do.
Right? They have his keys.
They do.
All of them. For all of the rooms, including 14.
They do.
They shoot into the fucking room with the glass
They
tubes
do.
in it.
And Nate straight up tells her, hey, be careful where you're shooting that thing.
How about use the fucking keys?
It's a good idea. You know, I didn't think about the keys, to be fair.
Use the keys.
No, you're right, though. You're right. They had Oscar's key ring. They should have absolutely just opened the door with a key. Instead, Veek shot the lock off, which, by the way, I just want to put this out there for everyone out there. Don't fucking do that. Like, you might break the lock if it's a cheap lock, but the shrapnel from the bullet or the lock will almost definitely fuck you up.
Yeah, I imagined that happening as well. Well, I was like, there's no fucking way. Right? And then I remembered that Roger closed the door to space, and I was like, fine. Fine. They avoid the shrapnel. Fine.
All right, whatever.
I know,
So they
fucking
after
so
she shoots
annoying.
off the lock,
Yeah.
the doorknob itself is also locked. So she fucking shoots
Right.
Like, all around the fucking door jam,
How-
and then Nate kicks it open.
How many fucking bullets? How many bullets does she have? Right?
I don't even fucking know. More than 3.
Like, it's... This whole bit annoyed me so much.
And you know what? The thing is, you can't even blame Veek on this because Nate thought of this too. It's just Veek thought of it first.
So dumb.
Yeah.
Annoying. So then, after they've shot the door, they go inside, they start looking around, right? And
Debbie
I was
calls
like...
down to them like, hey, all the mutants are leaving. And they're like, oh, that's weird. Hey, we got to focus on this, though.
Yeah. And then I was like, this is where Andrew's going to turn up. And then Andrew turned up, and I was like, he has to turn up here. He's got to interrupt them doing this.
Too, because he called them filthy, degenerate heathens. And I just thought
Yeah.
that was so fucking funny.
He's like, why are you not grateful for the death you've been given?
You're ruining my wonderful day.
Literally. Yeah. And he kicks
he
kicks
beats
the box.
fucking shit out of Nate after he kicks that box just as hard as he can. Like,
And
they found a box of tubes. They found a box of replacement tubes. A box that Nate dismissed because it looked too new. And like
Yeah.
when Veek opened it up, she like looked at one of the tubes and it looked like very new. But he didn't have time to dwell on that because, like you said, Andrew showed up. He
Yeah.
kicked the fucking box and then just starts fucking beating the shit out of Nate.
yeah. And here's the thing that is like fucking wild, right? Andrew is so strong. Right? They haven't
is.
explained how Andrew is as strong as he is. Right? And he kicks Nate. He punches Nate. He breaks Nate's arm, I do believe, with one of the strikes to the arm. Or he says that he feels like a crunch or something.
Hold on, I wrote this down.
Okay, cool.
He punched Nate in the shoulder and then the elbow, and he heard something crack when he was punched in the elbow.
Yeah, his arm. Or his ribs, something like that. Yeah, so Andrew is, and they've shown how strong Andrew is, where like he backhands people and they go flying across the room.
Yep.
Right. So that'll become relevant later in me calling bullshit on this whole section. Right. So Andrew is like kicking the fucking snot out of Nate. Right. Really beating on him.
And Nate is somehow holding his own for a little bit, but he just gets hit in the head too many times.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, he tried, you know, and it's very real. He was just being overpowered by someone who was just stronger than him, you know, and that's fair enough. And then Veek saves him.
Because Andrew was fucking monologuing.
I forgot about that.
He started fucking monologuing, and so Veek had plenty of time to shoot him in the shoulder. And then, like, he keeps going at Nate, and so Veek shoots him in the other fucking shoulder. And then this bit made no fucking sense, right? So after he gets shot the second time, he says, I was gonna make it quick, but now you can suffer or something, like you can die slowly in the rubble.
Yeah.
And then he leaves.
Yeah. So
why?
I don't know. Because he doesn't want. I think it's because he doesn't want to die. He knows he's now going to bleed out, and he doesn't want to die there. He wants to go and be eaten. I think is the idea. Right. I think that's his mentality. He's like, I would rather die in my lord's loving embrace than be shot and left cold as a corpse on the floor of this place when it goes back, you know?
It genuinely makes no sense to me. This dude is so fucking overzealous that
I know.
I feel like he would have just like kept going or like bull rushed Veek or fucking something.
Literally.
Like,
but here's another thing.
Ended it all right here.
All right. Here is another thing. How does Veek have any fucking bullets left. How big is this
I
gun?
guarantee you that second shot in his second shoulder, that was her last bullet because she wasted so many fucking bullets.
What you get 12 bullets in like some guns. I don't know.
I have
actually
no
don't
idea
know.
how many bullets are in a clip.
In a
I don't know.
handgun. I don't know. Well, let me Google
I'll look it up.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. Okay, so I Googled it. There are, on average, 15 to 30 bullets in your average handgun clip.
Okay, that's right then. Okay, I'll let her off on that one. There's no way
She definitely did not shoot more than 15 bullets.
No, she didn't. Okay. If it was like a revolver, then she would have been fucked. Yeah, but it wasn't. Okay, that's. I think that is the most passable thing that I've questioned.
So like as soon as he leaves, Nate's like, "Are the tubes okay?" And Veek's like, "Yeah, they were well packed. Andrew only managed to break 3 of them."
Calling bullshit on that.
Yeah.
Calling such bullshit on that.
I mean, so I will say, I as a former delivery driver, they like things when they are packaged to be like delivered on the road, like you would not believe how much your shit is getting fucked up when it is like bouncing along, in transit. I buy this. I believe this because like there are standards for like how tightly you need to pack something so it can handle being dropped on the floor like dozens and dozens of times. Because let me tell you something. Like in your average like delivery truck, the shelves suck and there's nothing keeping anything on the shelves. All of the packages fall and they will fall all day.
Oh my God.
So I buy this. I believe this. I believe that like Andrew, however fucking strong he is, like could kick a well-packaged box and like most of the stuff in there wouldn't break.
Okay, I get you. But I don't know, because it's not a drop, though, is it?
No, he straight up fucking kicked that.
Kick from like a superhuman. A mutant human man, bear pig. Like he's, I don't know. Clive. I just remember the narration of like Clive, where it was like when he got backhanded, or like back-fisted, and it's like it wasn't a particularly well swung blow, and it was a backhand. How much fucking power can be generated from a backhand? Not really much. But it felt
harder than getting hit by a 2x4.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, and now that man is kicking something as hard as he can. Like,
did it say that he kicked it as hard as he could?
That's fair. That's just me in my mind. It's like, if you see that they've got the tubes that fix the machine that can let it come home, I am stomping that box into oblivion if I'm Andrew.
Yeah. Well, so anyway, so they take the tubes. They go back up the stairs. They see the back gate was open and slowly shutting. And so Veek's like, did he jump down? And Nate's like, fucking let him.
Yeah.
Like, fuck him. So they go.
Literally.
The chapter ends with Rogers telling them, the squales are coming back.
Yeah.
Which is probably why, like, all of the mutants started leaving.
Yeah, that makes sense. Also, like, how did I don't know, if the squales can fly, how did the squales take so long? How did they take longer than the mutants to get there? Surely they'd be first.
I'm under the impression here that, like, they hung back and kind of let the mutants do their thing, but then when it became evident that the mutants, like, weren't doing the job, they were like, okay, fine, we're gonna take care of this.
That makes sense. Not really to, like, the whole hunting vibe, though.
No.
It doesn't make sense if they're, like, looking for a hunting experience.
There's not much about this part of the book that does make sense, though.
Yeah, I feel like this is a pretty weak ending. I'm not gonna lie to you. I feel like it's not really. It didn't strike a chord for me. I struggled with it quite a bit.
Chapter 79: How the Mystery Gang Fixed the Machine and How They Returned Home. So they bring the tubes back up to apartment 13, and everyone but Mandy got to work like slotting in the new tubes. And then, like, the machine comes back to life, but for some reason, like, they were still in the other reality, like, nothing was happening. And so they were, like, scrambling to figure out what the fuck was wrong. And then they heard Cthulhu thinking at them again. And Nate's like, he says to Zila, explain to me again, how did you figure out how to fix the control panel? And she's like, because of the dust. And so then, like, he almost figured out what they missed, but, like, the damn fucking monster kept thinking at them.
Yeah. And then it takes him a while longer to, like, really work it out. And it was the thing that I worked out.
Thinking about Cthulhu that made him make the connection.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Because he was thinking about how the big one, the one that was thinking at them, was the one that he had seen that day when they first discovered the control panel, because he just knew, I'm guessing this was intuition, because there's no way he actually knows this, but he knew that none of the other squales were powerful enough to press into their world like that one could. And then that was what made him remember that Roger had flipped the switch. And he was like, Roger, which switch did you flip? And Roger's like, I didn't flip a switch. And he's like, yes, you did 2 weeks ago. Which one did you flip? And he's like, I don't fucking know. And they're all telling him, like, remember.
Which is like really fucked up. So that's really fucked up. And then I think what's annoying, right, is I feel like Veek has just been having a really fucking hard time.
Yeah.
Because the glorious moment of them going home, in my mind, because Veek was frustrated. She was like, for once in your life, use your fucking brain, you potato.
Yeah. And that was the encouragement he needed.
It was. And then his, like, final hurrah of, like, we're going home was him saying, fuck you, bitch. And I was like, poor Veek.
Yeah. And it's that, and, like, the way it was narrated, it was like an action moment. Like, fuck you, bitch. And then he flipped the switch.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just cringe.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Poor
it was
Veek.
Not it.
She just been fucking shot in the stomach. People are minimizing her fucking injuries. She's then had to save her boyfriend. She's killed someone now. You know, she's like literally trying to manage all of these dilemmas. She's watched her friend die, and then someone's going, "Fuck you, bitch."
In the moment of truth. Fuck you, bitch. Flip the switch. Save the day.
Poor fucking woman. Poor woman. Yeah. And
so all the needles like went back to zero. The building tremored. It felt like a ship casting off. Everyone fell down, and they could hear the squale. Like they could hear Cthulhu just like, no, my new world, no.
Yeah.
And then they were back home. And then some true fucking horror. The POV shifts to Andrew.
Yeah. Yeah.
The first time we ever get the point of view of Andrew, and it's when he, I think, gets eaten.
Yeah, he does.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, he gets eaten.
So he was standing with, like, the mutant overseers, and, like, they were all singing, and he was singing with them, and then they, like, saw the Kvatch building, like, flicker and disappear. And then Cthulhu, which Andrew thinks of as the Lord of all things.
Yes.
Starts fucking roaring in their minds, and it made him a little bit nervous, but he knew that he was favored because here he was with all of them and nobody was like attacking him or anything. And then the chapter ends with his alien god's love, supposedly, lifting him up, and he was like, this is the most wonderful day ever. And it's like, yeah, you're about to get eaten. Good job.
Yeah. Love being tentacles. Yeah. So, yeah, Andrew dies.
Yeah.
Good riddance.
Good fucking riddance.
Yeah. Wish it was Roger.
Just what a fucking battle cry. Fuck you, bitch, man.
I know, right?
Come on.
Oh, what a dick. I wish it was Nate.
Edition, Chapter 80. How the survivors of the trip to hell and back got on with their lives until the rent was due.
So these last 2 chapters are basically like the epilogue.
Yes.
So this chapter is like, hey, here's what happened over the next 2 weeks, right? So there is a lot that happened basically in those next 2 weeks, and it was one of those tell don't show situations. It was a lot of this happened and this happened, this happened.
Yes.
So they all go outside, and it's night out, but like everything's normal. And Veek looks at her phone, and like it has to like reboot because it's been away from Earth for a little bit.
Yeah.
And she's like, "We've been gone for 4 days." And Roger was like, "Oh, I am so fired." And it turns out, yeah, he was fired, but he had another job by the end of the week.
That's fair. I mean, just casual.
So what about this chapter like stood out to you? Because there was a lot of stuff. Like, what was notable to you?
I mean, how serious but unaffecting her Zila's leg injury was.
Yeah.
It's like, this could have killed you. You're very lucky to be alive, and it was just super glued shut.
Yeah, no, the doctor was giving her a lot of shit for taking so long to get this looked at because it could have killed her, and like because she took so long, it won't get stitches and she will have a scar.
Yeah. Which is rough, but hey ho.
Debbie had 2 cracked teeth that she couldn't afford to get filled, so she just had them removed. Nate was okay. Veek was okay, although personally, I think Veek really, really should have gone and found out if she had a hernia or something.
Well, I think
bleeding.
Veek should have found better friends. That's what I think Veek should have done in this fucking epilogue.
In this epilogue, Veek should have been like, "You all suck. I'm leaving. I don't want anything to do with you or any of this. I'm just glad I'm alive. I'm going back home."
Yes, absolutely. Horrible people.
Like, all of them were hurt, and they chose to minimize Veek's injuries. Like, that's
literally.
So, it's just... We really can never let that go.
No, they're like, oh, it's just a fuck. I would be like, okay, motherfucker, come here. Let's collect these bean bags, put them back in this gun, and let's see.
Yeah, why don't I shoot you?
Crazy.
Fucking stupid. But yeah, let's see. Veek was also fired from her job, but she didn't care. Clive got really lucky. Like, he didn't, he just didn't have any work scheduled while they were gone.
That's, like, oddly convenient.
It is very convenient.
Yeah.
The thing that I thought was really interesting was, so while they were all gone, the Kavach building was still where it should have been.
Yes. So this was really fucking annoying, actually, right? Because I just remembered something. So the other tenants were just in the building, but they didn't go to the other side.
Yeah. So there for a little bit of time, there was like 2 versions of the building or something. And yeah, they were in the Earth side version of the building. And so from their point of view, everything was fine. And then one day the building was fucked up.
Yeah, but my problem with that is, like, what are the safe areas of the building, right? Like, realistically, what are the safe areas of the building? Because do you have to be in the control room to travel?
No.
You know? Because, wasn't Roger not in the fucking... And neither was Oscar.
Hey, this episode is brought to you by me. I'm crippled, and I need assistance. So if you could help, that would be great. I need money for things. So if you could sign up for the Patreon, that'd be cool. Or you could do a one-time donation on PayPal. If you can't help financially, that's okay. I get it. Things are tough right now. What you could do is you could like the show. You could follow the show. You could give the show a star rating, particularly on Spotify. We only have like 5-star ratings. I don't mean like 5-star ratings. I mean we only have 5 ratings. And it would be really helpful if we could get some more in there. If you could share the show with your friends. This is all word of mouth. We have no marketing unless you count me making Facebook posts as marketing. So that'd be great. Jacques, do you have anything to add?
Absolutely donate to this man. Because, think about it. If you're sitting in a room with him and on a cold open, which about 30 seconds before he started it, he's like, I'll just do like a really standard one. And the first thing he says, or the second thing he says out of his mouth is, donate to me. I'm crippled. And I'm over here sitting, I am trying so hard not to laugh because that was not what I was expecting to hear. I don't want to be caught laughing at a cripple, but here we are. So donate to this man.
I'm injured. Like, my laptop is on its last legs. It really is. And that's the thing I use to edit. I don't know how I'm going to keep editing the show when my laptop is bunk. I need a laptop. Okay, cool. Back to the show. So my interpretation of what happened is that everybody that was in the building when the transfer happened went over. But then after the transfer happened, there was still a version of the building that was still in LA. And so then after the transfer happened, then all the other tenants who, as it so happens, work the night shift or something. So like they all trickled in after this happened. And went about their lives like everything was fine. And then 4 days later, the building was fucked up.
Wasn't there 1 or 2 tenants that were probably in the building when this happened?
Oscar was uncertain about where they were.
I mean...
But again, because like nobody like made themselves known at this point, we can only assume that nobody was there, unless they were so petrified that they just didn't come out of their apartment.
Yeah.
But even if that had happened, nobody said anything.
I know. Also, what was really kind of funny was Mandy.
Fucking Mandy.
She literally was just like, it didn't happen.
It didn't happen. I hit my head. Nothing happened. That's it.
Yeah. Fucking... What an oddball.
She was catatonic in Debbie and Clive's apartment for a day. And then she just got up and got on with her life and pretended like none of it happened.
Yep.
And Nate was like, okay, I'm not going to unpack any of that.
Yeah. Fuck. And then they go for Thai food.
No, yeah, so they... So what happened was they all decided to meet up the day before rent was due. Like, they all got on with their lives, but then it was the day before rent was due, and they were like, okay, we've got to do something about this. Like,
yeah.
we've got to address this. And so they were like, what do we do? And then like somebody, I don't forget who, I think it might have been Zila, suggested, well, why don't we just like shove our rent checks under the door? And Roger was like, I mean, no, somebody's going to know something's up. That's not going to cut it. And so then Nate, apparently he'd been discussing what to do with Veek before this meeting. He was like, I think that it would be best if all of you were not here this weekend.
Yeah. And he's like going to take the fall, basically.
Basically, yeah. He's like, somebody's going to show up asking a lot of questions that none of us are going to have good answers to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be here when they show up. And then it's like, why? And he's like, because I'm the guy in charge.
Mm-hmm. Which is like, I mean, it's okay plan. Yeah, it's an okay plan, and it makes sense. I feel like this is where the scenes like this are the parts that I feel like are the well thought out stuff, and they're not well thought out, but like, not that the other stuff wasn't well thought out, but there's like, I feel like there's less holes in these types of scenes, you know? And this book
Yeah.
goes back to what it had been prior at this point, you know, even if
Yeah.
it's just for a little bit.
Yeah. And so, like, after Nate says that, then they all kind of, like, hold hands silently for a few minutes.
Seance.
But then, like, Nate's like, you know what? I want to go somewhere with lots of people. And Roger's like, Thai food. And everyone's like, yeah, but we want to change first. And so he's like, fine. I'm going to wait downstairs for 5 minutes. But if you guys aren't ready, I'm going without you.
Why is he such a dick?
He wants fucking egg rolls now.
I feel like Roger is just a fucking dick. He's just
Yeah,
slowly
he is.
become an asshole.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
You know, I think it happened right around the time an eldritch creature inserted itself in his brain.
I feel like that's not an excuse.
I mean, I don't remember him being a jerk until after that happened.
Yeah, he definitely became an asshole at some point. Like, I swear. I don't know, because I was okay with him,
I'm
and
thinking
now
about
I just
it.
like...
He wasn't rude. He wasn't rude until after Cthulhu, like, got in his head and he pissed himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fucked him up.
It's fucked him up. Now he's a jerk.
I know. Now I wish he
It's a
died.
Now you wish he died.
Yeah. Not taking your friend, like, not waiting for your friends to go out for food is a fucking crime. Unless they take, like, fucking 30 minutes. But giving them 5 minutes to go and get changed.
Everybody, like, was literally like, oh, I just want to change my shirt. And it's like, why?
That is a bit weird, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
That is a bit
But
strange.
so Nate goes up to his apartment, and the chapter ends with him finding a man in a dark suit just in his apartment. Chapter 81, How Nate Became the Manager of the Kavach Building. So what did you think of this scene here, where he talks to the man in the suit in his apartment?
I think I was fucking right. That's what I think.
Yeah. Yeah, go on.
Wait, what, I don't know what chapter I said this, but I was like, Nate, I was like, I know that this book is going to end with Nate becoming the manager of the building. Like, I remember saying that at some point.
I don't remember if you had said this on microphone or not. But as I recall, it was right around the time we were talking about that confrontation between Nate and Oscar, like back around chapter 25.
Yeah.
Because you had a theory that Oscar probably found out what was up with the building, and then because he knew too much, they made him manager.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we've not really gotten any information that indicates that's correct, but I feel like that's probably what happened.
Yeah, I feel
that's
like that's
what happened to
as
Nate.
well. Yeah. And it's learn enough for people to die, and then whoever survives becomes manager, and the cycle repeats.
He's just like, who are you? And then, like, he talks about, like, Nate's movie collection. He's like, it's harder to get a read on people nowadays because their movie tastes are so random. Like, you have 17 of the same movies I do. And Nate's just like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah. Which is like, I don't know, it's so fucking weird. It is a bit weird. I don't like how secretive the guy is.
Yeah, because he's straight up like, what is your name? And he's like, let's not, like, complicate things with names. And it's like, no, this is bullshit. We got to be able to call you something.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that annoyed me about that is, like, let's not complicate this with names. Can I call you Nate? Like, literally the next line, I swear. He's like, can I call you Nate? Do you prefer Nathan?
Yeah, no, literally the next line is, can I call you Nate? Like, it's like a hazard of the job is that I become very familiar with the people that I'm observing, and so I'm used to thinking of you as Nate. Can I call you Nate?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And so then that's when that's like when Nate realizes like, oh shit, this guy's lock management. And the guy's like, yeah, I'm lock management.
Yeah, or am I just a hired actor? You know,
yeah, because like Nate assumes that he works for the government, and he's like, who said I work for the government? And he's like, you don't work for the government? I didn't say that either. You don't know who I am. I didn't say anything. For all you know, I'm just another hired actor.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't like the bullshit.
Yeah, it is a lot of bullshit.
It's so much bullshit when he's like, I'd be like, because he offers Nate the job, right, as the manager. He's like, we want you to be the manager. And Nate, like, proper pops off at him as well. He's like, people have fucking died. And
fucking died.
Like, and it's like, why haven't you been researching this building? Why don't you have a backup or, like, something else that's, you know? It's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why aren't people...
The guy was like, we've tried... And we've done some things like those fuses, you know, we made those, and we also made replacement bulbs for the tunnel down to the generators. If you feel like replacing those bulbs, you can. And it's like, that's not fucking enough.
No, it's nothing. And they use like the plane analogies. Like, if this building is a plane, all you've done is create replacement tires.
Yeah, and then the guy says that, hold on, I jotted this down. He said that you can't study an airplane while it's in mid-flight.
I feel like, did he say the engine of a plane?
Or did I don't remember specifically what he said, but like he was basically like, you can't study how this thing works because it's actively doing the thing. Like, if we try to figure out how it works while it's doing the thing, you know, we could break it.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like they're clearly not doing enough. And so this is kind of where he kind of, like, says, I don't think we find it out until Nate goes downstairs and speaks to Veek about it, but they want Nate to have the job, and they want him to be more active than Oscar was.
Yeah, we don't get to hear that part of the conversation. Like, eventually, the guy's like, let's quit beating around the bush. We know exactly why I'm here. We know exactly what this is about. But we're not privy to that part of the conversation.
Yeah.
We just hear what Nate tells Veek afterwards.
Yeah, and so...
There was a bit more, though, in this conversation that I want to touch on.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the conversation... The guy tells him, hey, you'll be happy to know that all of the ringleaders of the family have been arrested and most of their members have been detained. Whichever ones aren't going to prison for the rest of their lives are going to get, hold on, I jotted this down. They're going to get years of federally funded therapy.
So he is with the fucking government.
He's with the FBI. I mean, well, he said the FBI had made the arrests. So that leads me to believe that he works for the FBI. And he mentioned Tim Farr in a way that suggested to me that he had known Tim. And so that leads me to believe that Tim also worked for the FBI.
What does he say that leads you to believe that he knew Tim?
So he said, like, I understand that you became very good friends with Tim Farr. And then he said, like, you know, he talked about how Tim didn't really have any, like, friends or family or relatives, and that, like, he's gonna have he's gonna get, I don't remember the exact wording, but basically he's gonna get, like, a soldier's funeral, basically.
Yeah.
And so, and that Nate was invited to attend.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so then it was at that point that, like, he pivoted to what the meeting was really about, and that's the end of the scene, because then the scene skips to Nate finding Veek in the lobby, and Veek's like, hey, and Roger was serious, everyone else is left.
A dick.
Like,
such a dick.
I told Debbie, I gave Debbie our order, like, in case we don't get there in time.
Fucking should have died. Should have died. Unacceptable behavior. Hold on for 5 fucking minutes, my guy.
Yeah.
You know.
And so she's like, what's going on? And Nate's like, I just got a job. And she's like, right now? And then and then that's when the man in the suit comes down. He's on his phone, and then he gets off his phone. He shakes Veek's hand. Notably, he pronounced her last name correctly.
Yes.
And he's like, my money was on you from the start, but I'm still glad you're going to be on the team. And then he just left. And Veek's like, what the fuck was that? And Nate's like, I'm the new building manager. And she's like, what?
Yeah. And he's like, and they want me to be way more active. And they've given me a team if you want to be on my team. And she was like, are there any rules about like office relationships? And he was like, we could make some up and then break them.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, yeah, no, they're going to give me, like, all of the files that they have. Like, they're going to give me all of their records, and they're going to want me to report to them to plug the holes that they have in their records. And she's like, they have records? And so then she's like, I want to know, like, how many files are there? And Nate's like, let's go find out. And so then they go to his new apartment, apartment 12, with a shiny new plaque that's got his government name on it. And under it says manager. And so then the book ends with Nate opening the door to his new apartment.
Yes. And we can assess that they too were terrible friends because they've asked for people to order food for them and they're not fucking gone. So their friends have
That's
to pay
right.
for that food. The files can wait. The files can wait. Don't be a dick. What do you mean? So rude.
Like, what more do you need to know right now?
Literally. Go hang out with your friends, dickheads. They're
Go
all
fucking hang out with your friends. Go
worst.
tell them what just happened.
Literally the worst. The worst. I wish Roger had died.
I love that you keep saying that.
I know. It's
Okay,
true.
so let's talk about this. Yeah, let's just
let's
talk about
unpack.
the book. Just so in general, what did you think? Or are you just gonna leave it with "I wish Roger had died"?
I mean, that's the cliff note, the single cliff note.
Roger should have died.
Yeah, no. I mean, yeah. I think I enjoyed the book. I think that it became very questionable in the chaos, where I feel like the book was at its best was in the mystery
Yeah,
and the reveals of the mysteries and in the communication between the characters and, and how the dynamics of the characters played off each other was really good. But the second it started introducing a lot of like, okay, there's action now, there's stressful situations, people stopped being like logical, normal people, and they fell into like that. When horror movie logic, it's like that
I
shit.
sure do.
I felt like it kind of went down that route where
They do the dumbest thing possible. They're like, "Hey, let's split up."
yeah, and it's just fucking dumb. Like
Yeah.
all the answers for how the machine works are there or in the fucking apartment.
Yeah.
You
But
go
Nate,
to Tim's
fucking
room.
idiot, is like, "Let's go find Oscar. Maybe he's still alive." No.
He's not alive. He
No.
got ripped out of the building
That
by his
dude's
fucking
fucked.
head. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's no way
So-
he was still alive. And they went all that way just to be chased back. And it just...
Yep.
So that's the stuff I don't like, is that. But it was in the mystery and the lead up and the working things out and the what's in 14 and, the underground tunnels and the, like, all of that slow reveal stuff and, like, the characters playing off each other in that time was really good. I felt like
Yeah.
all of the characters were a little underdeveloped or a little cliched.
Yeah.
They were all just like characters that were in a box where you could put like 3 or 4 points on who they are as a person, and nobody ever really felt whole past that point, you know. You didn't really get to know anyone. And then I felt like some of the bigger decisions that were made in the book about like who's gonna die and what impact that's gonna have on people, I felt like it was very cop-out approaches, like very low impact way of doing it, where it's not very like there's zero shock to it.
Yeah, I so this was one of my favorite books growing up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I read it when I was in high school because it came out in 2012. And at the time, I loved it. I thought it was my favorite. I re-listened to it quite a few times when I was in college.
Yeah.
But because, you know, that this podcast has a way of making you reconsider things. Going through the book with you.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like listen to it all over again when we started this. I went through it with you, even though I kind of already knew what was happening. I didn't like just listen to the whole book. Like when we started doing this again, you know.
Yeah.
Going through it with you, breaking it down, looking at it critically. I have to agree with you. Like the book was at its best when it was a mystery.
Yes.
And then it kind of showed its hand kind of all at once.
Yeah.
And then it was all action, and it was unnecessary.
I feel like the action wasn't. I could tell the action wasn't what Peter Clines was best at this point, you know.
Because I mean, like the best action moment was when Tim beat the family, and even then, that didn't really make a lot of sense. And like there was a couple moments where there was action, and I was like, I'm having trouble picturing this.
Yeah, there was a couple of descriptions that were hard to follow. In it.
And kind of like you said, you know, like when you really get right down to it, like a lot of these characters are really like flat.
Yeah.
Particularly Zila.
Yeah, I'm quite disappointed in Zila's character, to be honest. I felt like there was way more that could be done with it, and it was just like artist flaunts around, flirting with everyone, you know, has blue hair, is like, yeah, it's just over sexualized artist flirty girl. Like that's it. And I could not. Like, I mean, they tried to flesh a character out, I guess. Like, they arguably did more so with her background. Like in the tunnels, they did do it.
Yeah, no, we got the most background from her.
Yeah, but I still feel like it didn't do much. Like, there was nothing in the way that she was acting and the way that she was that was explained. Like, I don't know. I felt like there was nothing in her character that was like a flaw that the background drew light on to in a way that would change your opinion of her, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Like, nothing about her explanation was like, oh, well, this makes sense. Now I understand why you behave this way. No.
Yeah, but it's not even like, I feel like to do that with a character in a way where it's like you develop the character and you show why a character is a specific way, you have to introduce things that are, I don't know, like character flaws, I guess. You know? So there has to be a character flaw there in order for you to kind of like a problem that you have with the character, in order for you to like demystify that problem and make you second think the first initial judgment that you had of that character. Yeah. And I felt like none of the characters really had that.
Yeah, it did really feel like with most of these characters, like, it was very cookie cutter. Like, you could have slotted, like, all of the characters did contribute to solving the mystery in one way, shape, or form, but, like, it wasn't very often unique to why that character, like, was able specifically to do it. Like, there were a few times, right? Like, there were some moments where, like, because Zila was an artist, she figured out this one thing, and because, because Clive is a carpenter, he figured this stuff out. And because, Tim is secret agent man, he knew everything.
That I felt like was the ace in the hole, but also I feel like Tim as a character being introduced. I feel like he solved a lot of problems for them in the book.
He did.
That it wouldn't have been solved without him, or would have had to be solved in other creative ways without him. And Tim as a character, even though he was my favorite, I feel like did more to hinder the book than help it.
How so?
Because he was the go-to answer for everything to such a degree that he had to be killed by the end of the book to create stakes.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't have a character.
He would have straight up killed Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew wouldn't have stood a fucking chance. Tim would have walked back in. He would have been like, "Where's Andrew?" And then he would have gone hunting him down. He's like, "Can't have that madman on the loose. Let's go find him. You guys do this, I'll go do that." And then there would be no stakes there. So, like, there is no other choice. But it's because this character, even though he was great, was introduced as a catch-all character. Even in the way that, like, he even says it himself. It's like his background is a catch-all background. That is his entire character. That is the thing that makes him helpful to the group. You know?
Yeah.
I like how they introduced it slowly, but then it got to a point where it's like, oh, it's just a problem for the story.
It reached a point, I think, where there was a specific point. It was where he was, like, kind of questioning everyone. Like, I think they didn't really explain it well. There was a moment where Tim was, like, so invested he was willing to be a little bit risky with his cover.
Yeah.
You know? Like, because I don't think that I don't know, it's weird. Like, I get the impression that, like him moving there was just happenstance.
Yeah.
He was just a retired guy, and this is where he moved to.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of it, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very... Yeah, I stand by that it hindered the book more than helped it.
I agree.
I think
things would have gone better if, first of all, like you said, Zila should have died in space, along with Mrs. Knight.
Yes.
First of all.
Yep.
And then Roger should have died instead of Tim.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I think, if we're being realistic, Veek probably should have died at one point too.
Which point is that?
It would have been when Andrew shot her.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Not with beanbags, but with an actual shell.
Yeah, yeah. I think the beanbags thing, that's passable. Because I think, if you removed him from the book, they don't have guns either.
That's true. They would have been defenseless.
Yeah. And then Veek probably wouldn't have got shot, but they would have been absolutely mauled by the family. So Tim's the only reason the family weren't at 6 people by the end.
Honestly, I feel like this book would have gone better if we had scrapped the final act and done something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the book really was at its strongest when it was a mystery.
Yes.
Like you want to solve your mystery at the end.
Literally. That's kind of what I was thinking. I was like, I don't know what this book is doing at this point, kind of like moving forward, you know. After it was like, oh, they've discovered what's in room 14. That was the final thing that was a mystery left. They've like discovered everything. I think that the family should have been reintroduced at that point, and then it could have gone in. I think it should have been them trying to work out, or one of them should have worked out that someone in the building was from the family. And, like, some other thing should have happened from there. I mean, I get what he was trying to do. I'm still not a fan of how much was lent from H.P. Lovecraft. I feel like the H.P. Lovecraft tie-in felt kind of tacky to me. Because you
don't think it should have been, like, an eldritch horror thing?
No. No, I mean, and if you were going to do it, don't tag this piece of work that you're doing as the real truth behind what led one of the most prolific horror writers of all time to write all of the amazing fiction. That just doesn't seem right. I don't like that as an idea.
Mm-hmm.
You know? That feels really tacky to me. That's kind of like my thoughts on that as well. Yeah, I agree with you. The last like the action acts should have been scrapped for something more, I guess, thought provoking. I would have preferred more thought provoking, or like there being like the final act being something else that was uncovered. Because I can tell you the exact moment the book went like off the fucking deep end for me was Squid Creature in the Sky after the machine turned on for the first time. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's wild. But I don't think it went downhill until the family turned up, because it was like I got really excited. Oh, the family are going to be here. And then all they did was just like successfully turn the machine off in 5 seconds.
And then Tim killed them in 15 seconds.
Yeah, literally. And it's like it went from the family were just a bunch of red shirts.
Yeah. And Tim was a red shirt.
Tim was more than
literally was a red shirt because he died on the away mission.
That's actually fair, yeah. That is fair. Yeah.
It's a shame, like, really breaking it down and thinking about it, because when I'm just reading this book, when I was just reading this book before,
yeah, like
I didn't really think about the final act, because like it all is bam bam bam, it happens so quickly.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's like, really when you start.
I mean, it's like the last 2 hours of the book in like a 10 or 11 hour audiobook.
Yeah. 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 Like, I
wonder if maybe it would have gone better if, like, perhaps, like, after all of this shit with Apartment 14 happened, at that point, that's when, like, the shadow agency comes in and then just, like, abducts everyone and is like, okay, you gotta answer some questions now. And then, like, they sort out that Andrew's, like, a member of the family.
Yeah, I think that would be problematic, I guess, because you would have to then, like, you take the agency out of the tenants.
I guess that's true.
You know, whereas, because it has to stay a secret what's happening, and the tenants have to work it all out themselves. Like, none of them worked out and there was something up with Andrew. They worked out everything else, and I feel like they should have worked out that something was up with Andrew.
They should have worked out that there was something fucking screwy with Andrew, yeah. Because, like, they literally just gave it to him. They told him what he needed to know.
I know. And I think that the perfect time to plant that seed was when they were measuring the building.
Yeah.
And they didn't plant a single fucking seed of it that I can remember.
The only indication that we had that something was off with Andrew, other than his religiousness, was something that I didn't mention at the time.
Ooh.
Because I was worried that, like, I would give away too much.
Yeah, okay.
Even though the book straight up says it, was that, like, when he shook Nate's hand.
Oh, yeah, he was freakishly strong.
Yeah, the guy shook his hand as though he was worried he was going to
Yeah.
hurt Nate while shaking his hand.
Yeah, yeah. Which was an interesting indicator that I completely breezed over my head. But I feel like there should have been something in his apartment that when they were measuring kind of gave him away. And I think that or like raised a level of suspicion. And I think that it's really okay to do that with a character like Andrew because he wasn't trying to keep secrets.
Mm-hmm.
He was very open and honest about like everything except for like the only thing he didn't tell him is it's like, oh, we're the fucking family. I feel like if someone had asked him, he wouldn't have kept the secret.
No, I think
you
I
know what I
mentioned
mean?
that in an earlier
Yeah.
episode. I think like the moment you actually like ask Andrew about his religion is the moment you realize, oh shit, he's a cultist.
Literally, yeah. And I feel like that should have been something that was kind of like,
Clive should have clued Nate into that because Clive clearly had some kind of discussion with Andrew about his religion.
yeah. When was that?
So before we even meet Andrew, right, like when they're like talking about like how they're going to measure everything, they mention Andrew, like they might be able to convince him to let them like measure his apartment. But like Clive makes clear that he doesn't want to talk to him, that he doesn't like him, and he explains why, because, you know, he's just like, oh, you know, he thinks that his religion is better than your religion. His God can kick your God's ass. It's like
Yeah.
at that point, it's like, I kind of want to know what's up with that. But Nate was like so nervous about like talking about religion that he was just like, nah, I don't want to like,
Yeah, I think that's... Yeah. I feel like there could have been way more... I like the breadcrumbs of the book and how... I felt like I worked quite a lot of things out.
You did. You did.
I felt like I was pretty switched
and the
on
funny
to a
thing
lot of
was,
stuff.
like, you were joking when you worked it out. So
That's funny.
like then when it was like legitimate, you were like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, literally. Yeah, but I feel like I got more lucky than anything just because I was cracking jokes about it.
Yeah.
With a lot of stuff. Some stuff I did work out, but I worked it out too late. And I just wish the characters had the same thing, like with Andrew. But yeah, it was good. I really did enjoy the book. Just not really the ending. And the ending's too predictable. The ending of him becoming the manager was too predictable. And there was nothing really lost in the book. None of the characters lost anything.
Yeah.
Like they just gather and they're hanging out like as if Tim didn't fucking die, you know. But they didn't lose anything really. And it's so funny that they're hanging out and they're going for Thai food and they're like, you know, and it's been a month and Tim died. But yet Clive spent a whole bunch of time convincing his wife that if they died, then it would be a massive deal to everyone. But it absolutely wouldn't have. It wouldn't have.
There really was glib mention given to Tim after he died.
Yeah. Literally. It was like breezed past. Everyone got back. They went about their fucking lives for a month. Nobody, at no point was it addressed that anybody there really gave a fuck.
Other than Nate.
But, like, that doesn't really land for me either. Like, by the end of the book, forgot that he had died. Like, at one point, I was like, oh, yeah, he's fucking dead, isn't he? Like, because it just became... Like, none of the characters hung up on it.
Like, when he was going up to his own apartment, there was mention of him, like, you know, imagining seeing Tim at his apartment and then remembering, oh, yeah, he's dead.
Yeah.
Which... That is something that is common, though. Like, you know, sometimes it's really easy to forget, like when you develop familiarity with someone and then they die suddenly. Sometimes it's easy to forget for just a second, like, oh, yeah, they're dead. Because then, like, once you think about them, then you have that moment where you're
Mhm.
like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, totally. It's very, spicy.
But, well,
Well,
I mean,
I mean,
I guess it's popcorn. This is
Yeah.
lit popcorn.
yeah, I get you.
You know, it's fun, but it's not deep.
True.
Which is funny because, when I first read it, I thought this was like high class literature.
Of course you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny.
But
Yeah, I
if
was
you guys,
expecting it to
if you
get
guys
dark.
enjoyed this book, like, please, I don't want you to let our opinions like cloud what you
Absolutely.
think.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed the book, there are other books in this series. They're not like directly related. This is the next book in this series is The Fold, which is another mystery. Like it's like a sci-fi mystery. Like there's weird stuff going on with like a secret government project, and like the characters are trying to figure out like what's going on with that. The third book, I don't even know why it is included in the series because it is so different from the first two. It's called Dead Moon. It's like it takes place in like the 25th century on the moon, and like the whole premise is that the moon is the Earth's graveyard. Like all of humanity's corpses are sent to the moon.
Oh.
Yeah, and it like revolves around characters that work on the moon. And then, eldritch shenanigans happen. The fourth book is Terminus. That book builds on what happened in this book and in The Fold. That book, it's very weak on its own. I do not recommend you read that book without reading The Fold after having read this one. Like, you could read it without reading The Fold, but there's a lot of context that would be lost if you hadn't. Like, Terminus heavily relies on the events of this book and The Fold.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I feel like this universe could be quite a good series. I'm glad that there are more books in the series. I think that it's definitely for that. It's definitely written for that teenage audience. It's not written as like something that's going to be super, super dark and impactful on like and make you think about a lot of moral questions and be like self-reflective. I don't think it's one of those books, and it's not going to be something that like shocks you and makes you consider.
Some of the themes were there. It's just they weren't elevated.
Yeah,
you know
they
what I
were
mean?
so light. It was like it was like an introduction to the themes without any sort of like big meaningful impact, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like dip your toes in this water, see how you like it.
Yeah. If you want to read H.P. Lovecraft stories, Call of Cthulhu is a good one. Like, Jake mentioned in the last episode, that's a good place to start because it seems that a lot of Peter Clines' influence for this story came from that story specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I just shot in the dark as well.
And if you want to read more Peter Clines stuff, other than this series, which is called the Threshold series, by the way.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, if you want to read more of his stuff, there was a standalone novel that he did called Paradox Bound. It was very time travel, like it was all about time travel stuff.
Interesting.
I felt like the pacing was a bit off in that book, but it was fun. And then there was one series that he did that I thought was fun. It was called X Heroes, right? So that series is all about it's a world with superheroes.
Yeah.
and it goes to shit because a zombie apocalypse happens. So it's all about like this group of superheroes trying to keep this community of people alive and safe from zombies. And there was like 5 books in that series, so that was fun.
Yeah, I mean,
but again, like this novel, it's not very deep. It's just popcorn for the brain.
Yeah, I think that's a very good way of describing it. I have enjoyed the read. It's not the best book I've ever read in my life. It's not my favorite fiction I've ever read.
No, but I really did enjoy reading it with you.
Yeah, it's been a really good one to play along with. I'm quite happy with how much I worked out as we went, even if it was just from me cracking jokes about it. But yeah, and I think we should do another book at some point. So until then, this has been me on Functionally Literate. I look forward to doing more. I don't know when you'll invite me on. It might be a while until people hear my voice again, but yeah. This has been great, thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.